Morning everyone, this is Josh over at Silver Arrow Service. Today we're going to be installing this Reed Performance two-wheel drive conversion in a 2008 Lamborghini Murcielago. Essentially what we're going to be doing is we're going to be removing the front diff, the torque tube, and the front axles. And in place of it, we're going to be installing this transmission support, these axle stubs, and then the mount to support the transmission. So right now, we can take you over to the car. I can show you the components that we're going to be removing, and then we will start removal, and we'll go and put the new parts in. We're going to start by removing the front wheels. After we remove the front wheels, we'll have access to the large nuts that are on the end of the axle shafts. Once those have been removed, we're going to unbolt the axles from the differential, and then once we remove the differential, we'll be able to slide these axle shafts out, and those are going to be completely just removed from the vehicle. There's nothing that replaces that. Then we're going to have to remove these three supports. Once those three supports are removed, we'll remove the 6 bolts holding the torque tube on, and then this whole torque tube will also be removed from the vehicle. And then once that's done, we can install the transmission support and the axle stub blanks, and the two-wheel drive conversion will be complete. So we use a 17mm socket to take the wheels off, and now we're using a 36mm socket to remove this axle stub nut. When you put these on, typically you torque them to spec, and then there's a little slot where you can peen them over. If you have a strong enough impact gun, it will just break that peen. And it is a one-time use nut, so if you ever wanted to put this kit back on, you would have to replace that nut. So now we're using a 1-foot extension with a 6mm Allen. We're going to sneak it right through here, and then we're going to have to take out all 6 of the bolts that hold the axle stubs to the differential. And once we do that, we'll be able to continue removal of the diff, because once the diff is out, then we can get our axles out. Now we got all 6 of them out, the axle shaft is free. We're going to move over here, and we're going to do the other side now. So now that we have both the axles loose, I'm going to remove these supports, and after those supports are removed, I'll unbolt the torque tube from the diff, and that will allow us to then remove the 2 bolts that hold the diff in, and we can drop the whole diff right out of the car. The one thing you want to pay attention to is they do have washers on the inside of this mount as well. So you just want to make sure you keep a count of what washers went where to keep the proper spacing on that bracket. I forgot to mention the size socket we were using for these sides is a 10mm triple square. And we're going to be using the same one to remove the torque tube bolts. There's 5 bolts on this side, and then back on this side there's 5 more. The ones on this side are pretty easy. They come out no problem. The ones on the back are a little tricky, and I'll show you how we got those out. Now that we have the torque tube all removed, we're going to use a 19mm wrench and a 19mm socket. You're going to actually have to reach up in here, get the wrench on the top of the nut, or on the top of the bolt. And then we can come right down here, zip off the nut. Disconnect this sensor as well when you pop it off. It's just a little spade. You do have to slide it back and then drop it right out of the vehicle. Slide that one right out. This axle's a little bit stuck in there, so what you're going to want to do is get a ball peen hammer. If you notice in the center here, there's a little like divot. If you was to just take a flat hammer and smash this, you're going to damage the threads around the edge. So what we're actually going to do is put the ball peen right there and then just gently tap it. Now we're going to install these axle deletes. I put a little bit of lube on them just to make sure that they don't seize up. They literally just slide right through the back here. Slide right through. And then you put your nut on this side. We're gonna wait to torque these until we have the car on the ground, and then they get torqued to 345 Newton meters. So in order to get these top bolts on the transmission side, I have this wobble extension. So when you put this socket on there, it actually allows the socket to wobble. And what you're gonna have to do is put the socket on the bolt first. Once you have it on there square, you can slide the extension right through this gap. Just catch it. Take the bolt right out. Now that we have the whole torque tube loose, you can gently just pry back. The drive shaft will start to slide out of the transmission. And there you go. Torque tube with the drive shaft. We're going to install the transmission mount now. It only goes on one way. We're going to put it up here, and then we're going to use the same hardware we took off to install this on. So now we're going to torque these bolts down to 25 Newton meters. We're going to be using the same hardware that we took out to put these back in as well. So torque on these bolts is 25. Obviously, as you can see, we can't get our torque wrench in here. So we're going to have to kind of just do them by feel. So we're just going to use the old elbow torque wrench. And when we get to where we think 25 is, you'll actually hear my elbow do the same thing as the torque wrench. Beep. 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 These are also torqued to 25. So all I'm going to do is take the plug out. I'm going to route it way up here so it's up out of the way, and then I'm going to use a couple zip ties to secure it up there so we don't have to worry about it ever coming down or dragging or anything like that. And it's also up out of the elements. So the last thing we got to do is just torque the axle stub shafts. I'm going to torque them to 345 Newton meters. Easiest way to do it is put the wheels on it and put it on the ground. And then just torque them down.
That one's borderline. It is the same, actually.
Oh, sweet.
Alright, he's giving me 100 for the truck.
All right, so that's the complete two-wheel drive conversion on the 2008 Lamborghini Murcielago. Make sure to hit the like button below. If you want to reach out to us, you can get us at silveraeroservice.com, or you can call us at 603-566-2075. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out.